So this talk is called Myth of Peer Review. There are many myths in science. One of those myths is that the peer review process maintains the quality of science papers, but really it just blocks certain ideas from being published and maintain the existing scientific dogma. So this is the book I'm going by, Science Fictions by Stuart Ritchie. And on the blurb it says, a desperately important book, science fictions brilliantly exposes the fragility of the science on which lives, livelihoods and our whole society depend. And in an era of fake news and misinformation, Stuart Ritchie exposes how science itself is vulnerable to abuse, manipulation and outright fraud. Required reading for everyone. So that's what science is. Science in its ideal form is not corrupted, but what we have is people doing science, and of course that's what corrupts science, and it's been going on for a very long time. So this is what the book says. On the relevant bit I'm quoting from it about the peer review process. Most people, including scientists, assume peer review has always been a crucial feature of scientific publication. And of course I'm saying to that, and that's going to be turning out to be a myth. And the book then goes on to say, but its history is more complicated, i.e. its history of the peer review process is more complicated than what people want to assume or believe about it. But that's what in general happens. People have a tendency to replace believing in actual history and instead believe myth. In science we would expect that didn't happen, but surprisingly it does. Science ends up as a collection of myths contrary to what it's supposed to be doing, and I pointed out a lot of myths in my other videos. The book carries on and says, although in the 17th century the Royal Society tended to ask some of its members whether they thought a paper was interesting enough to publish in Philosophical Transactions, that's the journal they had at the time, requiring them to provide a written evaluation of each study wasn't tried until at least 1831. So it starts off you asking your peers if a paper is worth publishing, and it's not until 1831 a written evaluation of paper was given. Newton was thus never given any written evaluation when he published in Philosophical Transactions, as there was no peer review going on then in Newton's day, and it would presumably extend back to Galileo and everybody else. The book then carries on to say, even then, which is in Newton's day and so forth, the formal peer review system we know today didn't become universal until it went into the 20th century. So the peer review process as we know it came in the 20th century, and you can tell this from a letter Einstein sent in 1936 to the editors of a journal called Physical Review, and he was huffily announcing that he was withdrawing his paper for consideration at their journal because they had dared to send it to another physicist for comment. So it seems that Einstein was only peer reviewed once, and that is peer reviewed informally, and he didn't like it. And the formal peer review came after Einstein. So the book goes on to say it took until the 1970s for all journals to adopt the modern model of sending out submissions to independent experts for peer review, giving them the gatekeeping role they have today. So Wikipedia explains gatekeeping is the process through which information is filtered for dissemination, whether for publication, broadcasting, the internet, or some other mode of communication. So what we can note here, Einstein was not really subjected to gatekeeping. Those who come after him from the 1970s onwards and want to attack relativity, well, they are subjected to gatekeeping. And so it's not really fair that Einstein was allowed to say whatever he liked and not be subjected to a proper peer review process. And people who are trying now to attack him, well, they're being blocked. The point of view of Einstein is wrong is something that is being gatekeeped out of most science journals. And so it is, as I pointed out, there are many myths in science, and one of those myths is the peer review process maintains the quality of science papers. But really, it just blocks certain ideas from being published and maintain the existing scientific dogma. Einstein is now the scientific dogma. He was not subjected to formal peer review, and so suddenly the gatekeeping process starts after him to protect his point of view. Finish the end. Thank you.